Securities offered through Cetera Advisor Networks, LLC, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through CWM, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Cetera Advisor Networks, LLC is under separate ownership from any other named entity. Carson Partners, a division of CWM, LLC, is a nationwide partnership of advisors. This is The Way to Wealth, with host Scott Ford, a jiu-jitsu fighting, woodworking, beekeeping entrepreneur who is also the managing director, partner, and wealth advisor of Carson Wealth. Financial freedom is the goal, and clarity and simplicity is how we'll get there. Let's get to it. This is Way to Wealth.
Hello, and welcome back to the Way to Wealth podcast, where we're all about making money simple, allowing you to fully live and to fully live now. Couldn't be more excited with today's podcast. I have with me Ron Carson. Ron's the founder and CEO of Carson Group, which also has a wealth management arm, also has working with financial advisor arm. Ron is certainly about as high accolades as you could give someone in the wealth management space. But beyond that, for Ron, he's a partner, but he's also a friend. And actually, Ron, I thought about this coming into today's podcast. I'm like, when did we actually connect? And it was July 2001. So we've known each other over 20 years at this point. And Ron's a dear friend, and he's a bit of a, he wouldn't say this, but a bit of an icon in our industry. So it's super excited to have him on. But more than that, he's a friend and brother of mine. So excited to have you with us on the Way to Wealth, Ron.
Scott, I'm so honored to be here with you today. And man, has 20 years flown by?
Jeez, yes, that's exactly right. Time flies, right?
Yeah, sure does.
Yeah. And you know what? 25 more. Let's go. So sign me up. It's let's keep doing what we're doing.
I feel like you and I are just getting warmed up. So
that's same exact thing. If you have the opportunity to view this, we'll have this on YouTube and other channels where you can see. I'm going to share a little bit about the Way to Wealth just to set context, then jump in chatting with Ron, because that's who I really want to share today. But the Way to Wealth, what's this about? On the left side, and I'll be fast, the way is about living now. And we're very intentional about that. It's about everyone's focused on the future. Some get stuck in the past, but you know what? We only have now. So we call the Way to Wealth the way because it's the Taoist philosophy of being in harmony with the present moment. So we're real intentional about that. The team, the two is the team. We want an A team where everyone's working together because the game is won or lost by the team. And then the wealth is an acronym. What's the foundation? Which you'll see at the bottom is the foundation, a tax reduction plan, a state legacy plan, asset protection, insurance maximization, interest rate credit. And then it's all about cash flow and control, which is what that arrow represents. The further you go to the right, the more cash flow and control. On top, the foundation, the E is established savings. A is expenses covered by income, and then L is living with inflation. So we set 3 buckets of money on top of our foundation: a savings bucket, minimum 1 year, an income bucket, minimum 10, and then a growth bucket where we can swing for the fences. And then lastly, taxes being the biggest expense. We like to see tax diversification, tax deferred money, taxable, tax-free, and then have it updated annually. So what is all that? And you've heard this being a part of this podcast. We've broken this down chunk by chunk, but the idea of putting it on one page is keeping money simple. Why? Again, allowing you to fully live now. Point of reiterating this is to set context for today's chat with Ron, and that is we're going to be talking about enough. Well, why are we talking about enough? On the right side, you know my framework in life is to live a healthy, wealthy, wise, and happy life. And underneath of that, I define what I mean by that. And so typically people come to us saying, can you make money simple? Can you help me with your finances, with my finances? And we're like, yeah, we have a process. It's called the Way to Wealth. So they come to us to be financially free. Way to Wealth gets them there. That's great. Well, why do they do it? Because they want this sense of well-being with their money. And what I've come to realize is, yes, that's what they want. And what they need is a sense of well-being in all areas of life, which is why we use the healthy, wealthy, wise, and happy framework, is because they come to us in this red arrow, help me with my money. We get them financially free with the Way to Wealth. But what they really want is to feel like they have enough. Once they feel like they have enough, what they really want is to recognize this whole thing's about love. So for me, you look at health, spiritual, mental, physical, wealth, financially free, enough, and love, wisdom, living now, experiences, lifelong learning, happiness, relationship, having a dream and purpose and gratitude, That's the line we want people on, the spiritual line, but they come to us with money. So long-winded way to say, it's why my friend Ron's with us, is to talk about enough. What does that really mean? So Ron, with that, I want to turn over to you and just get your thoughts on what is enough. What do you think of when you think of the word enough?
I've had all the emotions of money. My parents went broke when I was 17 years of age, and I thought I was going to be a farmer my entire life. And that was the first time I was really scared around money, because I watched my dad, who was big, tough farmer, cry for the first time. I'm like, wow, this is serious, right? Even at 17, you really don't really grasp, what's going on. And it was a tough time for us. And for me, at that point, there never could be enough. I don't care how much financial wealth I had. The pain of what I had gone through was so great that, if you would have said you got all the wealth in the world, there's just something deep inside of me that, like, maybe that's just not enough. And it was an unhealthy ghost, that's like a hungry ghost that no matter what you give it, it still has this huge appetite, and it's an unhealthy drive. And so continued down that road for a long time, worked all the time, saved a lot of money, put things away, but not really happy, not content. Even when anybody from the outside looking in going, man, you're never going to run out of money, I couldn't believe it. I think it's a lot. People have an eating disorder. Like, even if you get skinny, you don't look skinny. You don't feel skinny or feel that you look good. And that was clearly me. And I read this book by John Bogle. I don't know if you ever read the book. And actually, Enough. And there's a line in that book that really hit me. And that was, he was at a party. I think it was in Scottsdale, Arizona. I can relate to that scene a little bit, because we have a home out in the mountains just east of there. But you would walk into a party in Scottsdale and like everybody, it was the most show, who had the most, who made the most income, had the biggest private plane, all of this stuff. And so John Bogle was in one of these parties with one of his friends, and the guy's pointing out this guy and that guy, and he goes, that guy made this, and that guy made that, and that guy made that, and that guy just sold that. And John looks at him and goes, you know what? I got something none of them will ever have. And he says, well, what is that? He goes, enough. And I thought maybe it was the right time of my life. It just hit me at that right point. And I started working with, I think we could all benefit, by the way, from using a therapist, health coach, someone to help you with unpack stuff deep in our core. And when I got over that, like, I'm going to be okay no matter what. And none of us can really have enough if that's our measurement, right? As material stuff, you can never have enough. But I realized I was going to be okay anyway. And what a freeing way to live. You talk about financial freedom. I'm talking about whole soul freedom, right? Where you get to just be in the present and just live an amazing life, because you don't have these confines, almost like a jail of your ego, holding you hostage away from where our souls really want to be. I know that gets kind of deep, but it is so personal and so powerful and so real to me.
It's spot on. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for being vulnerable and sharing some things from childhood. We've done the same thing on this podcast. It's why I do what I do. Is a story of my mom crying. I've only seen her cry twice, and one was about money. So thanks for sharing that. And then, you can't go too deep on this podcast. At least I don't ever want to be able to say, because that's exactly it, Ron. And it's funny you mentioned that book, John Bogle, because I thought about that this morning. I don't know if I said something to you, you said something to me. It doesn't matter. We both read it. And actually, I think it was about the same time. It's one of my all-time favorite books. I have a top 10, and it's on there. So I have that thing earmarked and highlighted and written up. And it's like, spot on. Like, and the other thing, when you think of enough, is, you can meet multi-billionaires and lovely people, and sometimes they don't have enough. And then you can meet someone, which I have in other countries, or people from other countries, and they literally financially don't have much, but they're glowing. And it's
Yeah.
because they recognize they have enough, and money's not bad. So that's not the issue at all. It's the recognition of we got it, we're good. And when they recognize financially they're okay, and that they actually have enough, they have food to eat and water to drink, they're good, and they have love in their life. So it's like, yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. When I think you've been through this journey and I'm on this journey, and that is your number. So when you think about having enough as a business owner, one of the things that helped me years ago is I got to this number and I'm like, what would be the number where it's like, okay, I'm good. Like, how could you need more than that? And I got that number in my head. Two things happened. Number one, it was a bit of a dream. It was a number like, wow, that would be something. And guess what? I'm there. So that's magical how that happens, first of all. But second, I think there's magic behind recognizing and getting to that number. Not only does it happen, but then, man, it really allows you and frees you up to swing for the fences because you've taken that off the table. So for me, I have this go and dream to work with 1,000 business owners building to exit. Well, guess what? That's me. Doesn't mean I'm going to exit, but when you build to it, it's wise to do. Well, man, if they can take enough chips off the table where they got their number for them and their family for generations, wow, what freedom is there to know you have enough and can swing for the fences.
By the way, can I just say a comment on the Enough book? Because I remember this. So this is why you and I are such good friends, is we read it about the same time, completely independently of each other.
Yeah.
And had a because I remember I'm like, oh my God, I just read that too. And you and I have done that on a ton of literature and things that we love and the way we think about life. Hey, Scott, let me one of the things that I did when I was so afraid, and this was I think a good, healthy thing that actually came out of that. I went through this exercise with Jeannie, my wife, and we said, okay, what does it take today to live our lifestyle? Right? Like we do spend a lot of money on living, more than we need, way more than we need to. But then we did the other exercise, because Jeannie and I both came from absolutely nothing, right? We said, if we had to, what could we live on? Because there is Dan Gilbert, I don't know if he's still at Harvard, but the Harvard professor on happiness. We've all seen the commercials he used to do for one of the big insurance companies, but happiness, money does buy happiness up to a certain level, right? I mean, we see those people that have nothing. I mean, you and I, like people that don't have clean water, they're not happy. I don't care. They traveling 4 hours each way to get feces infected water. They're not happy. They're just not. They can't be. They're watching people die from disease that are created from this unclean water. They're not happy. And they don't have the ability to be happy without that water. So happiness up to, I think it used to be, $86,000 a year. But beyond that, that's not a lot, right? $86,000 a year. And so that was freeing for us to go, if we had to, here's what we could live on. And we know we'd be happy because we were happy with it, but there's a minimal amount. And then I took an interest rate at the time, it was 6%, interest rates were much higher then, divided it into there. And I had multiples of that number. So it totally freed me to actually go for it. Here's the irony in all of this. Two things I would share. One is when you know that number and you got it in that bucket, I believe in buckets and I compartmentalize well. It's like now I can do things that are big, audacious, BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious kind of goals. And for Jeannie and I, it's around impact. Like those people I just said that want clean water, we want to be a big part of fixing that. Food insecurity. We want to be a big part of having nobody go to bed hungry at night. And then we're also, so it's water for us, it's then food, feed the world, and then it's coral restoration. That's a whole other longer term problem we have with feeding ourselves as a society at the rate we're losing our coral. So then now what? Now redefine the enough, and it's okay. Redefine your mission. You know, it's like you're not going to spend this, so then you can decide. And that gives you I think the universe, the law of abundance. When you're out there with the eyes of how can I help lift others up, your heart will be fuller, your energy will be higher, and your purpose will skyrocket. And you will have an energy and a vibration, and you will attract. I don't care what business you're in. When you start looking at it through the lens of that, you'll start attracting people, help, opportunities like you've never dreamt possible. It is the craziest thing that once you can freewheel it and you've got financial and soul freedom where your ego and soul are congruent, right? They're in harmony with one another. Man, you have unleashed unlimited possibilities and opportunities for your impact in the future.
Yeah, well, beautifully and well said, Ron. And shocker, couldn't agree more. Yeah, you think of so that's another example. Money's not bad. Look at what you're doing now with that freedom to be able to help with these passions and causes for you and Jeannie to use that money for good. It's a beautiful thing. And talk about that being congruent. That's where it's at. Like, recognizing you have enough and then using money for good. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. And then back to the number, you got clear on what could we live on. And recognizing you have multiples of that, it's so powerful. So what we do is Way to Wealth I manage our finances are literally managed by the Way to Wealth, 100%. And then I set up as a business owner, I set up a similar structure for 3 buckets for the business. So I'm looking at, I have a 1-pager for the business. And then I brought that business down to a 1-page personal to say, okay, what's in savings, what's in income, and what's in growth? And then what do we need to live? So I have it structured where the salary takes care of all of our living expenses, or we're living within that. And then do we have at least 10 years or all of that income of salary covered passively through income generating resources? And if that's yes, which it is, then we can swing for the fences over here on the growth piece. And that's where you can do some really cool stuff in the world of whatever word you want to use. Philanthropy, I don't know. I get torn on some of that stuff because people put meanings to it. But the point is doing good, doing well by doing good. You could swing for the fences over here, and whatever your soul calls you to help people for a greater cause and greater purpose. Boy, that's a beautiful way to live. And you made me think of something, Ron, because you were talking about that whole frequency and how things come to you when you are in a certain energy realm or frequency. Yes. And all the way back, and I think we both have grown in this area specifically. I know I have, but I remember you talking about Think and Grow Rich. You were the first person way back when that turned me onto that book, and he was saying a lot of these same things. And I know that's something you read every year as well.
Yeah, and Outwitting the Devil. I don't know his other book in 07, or 17 that came out, written in 1934. If the listeners, Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, I love it, but Outwitting the Devil is good. With you, Scott, I feel like I've grown emotionally, and just my ability to love and really understand my purpose. My purpose is to help others find meaning and purpose in their lives, friends, family, people that you and I serve. It's such a high calling, and I'm proud of it. I mean, sometimes we get accused of being a cult, and we always say, hey, if cult is putting our clients' interests first and fighting fiercely for their rights, freedom, and being taken care of, then welcome to the cult, because we are passionate about that. I want to add one other thing, because Jeannie would kill me if I didn't mention Dreamweaver on here. We talk about water, food, coral. This is a group of people. Jeannie and I started a foundation. This will be our 10th year, and we've done over 400 personal dreams and over 600, we call them grandpad dreams during COVID. And what we do is we do a final wish for the terminally ill. We call, impoverished elderly, people have nothing. And so when we first started Dreamweaver, and I named it after the song Dreamweaver. So if you go listen to the lyrics, about moving to the other side, a group of people so grateful that we do such little things. At the end, they want a dinner with their family, or they want a family picture. Sometimes they want a trip. But even when you come to them with this dream, they'll go, I know somebody else that needs it even more. Like how good does it make you feel when you're doing something for someone totally unexpected, and they are so appreciative, but they also are appreciative and saying, here's someone that needs it even more than me. It makes you want to do even more for that person. It's that emotional reciprocity in a different way, being experienced.
It's so true, Ron. And like you think about that, I think even it was Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad guy, that talked about way back when in his book, one of the big takeaways was that law of giving. And like, even when you don't feel like you have it, go ahead and give. And that law of reciprocity, actually, you don't give it for that reason. But the point is, it absolutely works. So we're really putting two podcasts in one here, which is fine. We'll clip it up, but that's what I want to do. So we're talking about enough and how that fits under healthy, wealthy, wise, and happy. Thanks for your time, Ron. Look forward to doing this again at some point. And listeners, thanks for joining the Way to Wealth podcast, where we're all about making money simple. Why? So that you can fully live, and you can fully live now. See you next episode.
The opinions voiced in Way to Wealth with Scott Ford, Managing Director, Partner, and Wealth Advisor of Carson Wealth, are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. Investing involves risk, including possible loss of principal. No strategy assures success or protects against loss. To determine what may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, financial, or tax advisor prior to investing. Guests on Way to Wealth are not affiliated with CWM LLC or Cetera Advisor Networks LLC. Legato Family is not affiliated with Cetera Advisor Networks LLC or CWM LLC. Carson Wealth, 19833 Leitersburg Pike, Suite 1, Hagerstown, Maryland, 21742.